Hi everyone. Apparently, Colossal Biosciences actually revived the dire wolf. At least that's what the title implies. It's a video by the Time News channel, I guess. No longer extinct. Colossal Biosciences Dire Wolf project. I'm not sure how they revived the dire wolf. Like the dire wolf went extinct somewhere around like 10,000 years ago, around the same time with like the saber tooth and stuff. 10,000 years is a very long time. Like it's actually a very short time looking at dinosaur bones and stuff. Those are so much older, but still, the DNA isn't going to be fully preserved. So they're gonna have to fill in the gaps with, well, wolf DNA probably. So I'm not sure how much actual dire wolf DNA is in these animals. But still very interesting. Regardless of how much of it is there, I'm guessing there is some of it, which is, wow, this is interesting development.
The howl of a dire wolf hasn't been heard on planet Earth for more than 10,000 years. That's because the species is extinct, or was. Colossal Biosciences is a Dallas based company that's using genetic engineering to de extinct long gone species. And this is the first time Colossal's dire wolf pups, who are now 6 months old, have been seen by the public.
Hey Ben, it's Jeff Kluger from.
I mean, they look like regular wolves. Dire wolves did look like regular wolves too. They were just a bit bigger, I think.
Time Magazine. A pleasure to meet you. Tell me a little bit about what the goal is for de-extincting and rewilding ultimately. Why are you doing this work?
It became abundantly clear that we need new tools and technologies for conservation. And so we thought this was a really
Well, how about just not destroying nature in the first
cool
place?
way that we could create value, create impact, inspire people, and then also hopefully thoughtfully rewild some of these species, which
Rewild dire wolves? They died like 10,000 years ago.
apparently will also have ecological
Hopefully, they're not gonna do that. Like, it's genetically engineered, it shouldn't be rewilded.
benefits to these different potential ecosystems.
To try and do that, Colossal needed to understand dire wolves at a genetic level. The company has documented the process from the beginning and shared this footage with Time for a cover story.
So, can you tell me a little bit about what went into engineering the dire wolf?
We extracted DNA from two fossils that we knew from previous work had some amount of preserved ancient DNA.
Yeah, but how much?
One was a 13,000-year-old bone, and the other was a 72,000-year-old bone, an inner ear bone. We were able to generate two genomes, two direwolf genome sequences from that, which
Wow.
we then compared to all the other wolves for which there's already been data generated. And when we do that, we want to figure out where it is that these two dire wolves are similar to each other, but different from the other wolves that are out there. And so we come up
Interesting.
with this list of genes where they're distinct. Now, our goal in the Dire Wolf Project, just like with all de-extinction projects, is to re-engineer the core traits, the core characteristics that made these extinct species unique and able to fill whatever role that they filled in their ecosystems when they were still alive.
Using this
Well, obviously, we have no clue if those specific genes were preserved in the fossil.
knowledge, Colossal then made 20 modifications to 14 genes in the DNA of common gray wolf cells. These relatively few tweaks to the genetic code produce some big differences. The dire wolf's white coat, large size, characteristic vocalizations like that howling you heard at the beginning of the story, and more. That DNA was transferred to denucleated egg
Very interesting.
cells, meaning cells without their own genetic material, and then developed into embryos and were then implanted in the wombs of surrogate mothers, who were hound mixed dogs.
We didn't know how big these embryos would grow and wanted to make sure that the surrogate was healthy. So we picked large dogs.
Romulus and Remus, named after the Roman mythological twin brothers who were raised by a wolf, were born on October 1st, 2024. And in January, they were joined by a younger sister that the Colossal team named Khaleesi. Each wolf is on track to grow to as large as 6 feet long and 100.
Oh, from Game of Thrones, because the white coats. That's kind of funny.
150 pounds. Colossal isn't planning to reintroduce them to the wild. Instead,
Yeah, hopefully not.
3 dire wolves will live out their lives on a fenced 2,000-acre preserve. Colossal does not want to disclose this location in order to protect the animals.
I think these are the
Yeah, that's good. You don't really want that DNA getting inside the other wolves. It might disrupt the ecosystem. This happens with actually farmed salmon. When farmed salmon escape, sometimes they can actually survive. They can go into the rivers actually sometimes. Well, sometimes the government releases them into the rivers to fool fishermen into thinking that they're catching the same amount of salmon. So there still is the same amount of salmon in the wild. The government actually does that, and it absolutely destroys the ecosystem, because I talked about this before too, multiple times. So you can skip ahead if you've heard it before. Salmon have a sexual selection system where they need to reach the location they were born in. Now, how does this work? Only the ones that are fit enough to swim up those rivers can actually reproduce. So only the fittest of the fittest actually survive. So they have this extreme reproductive selection system. But when you release farmed salmon into these rivers, you're releasing an abomination into nature. Right? First of all, you're releasing an abomination in nature, and you're releasing it into the reproductive place, which should only be accessed by the ones who were able to reach the top. So you're destroying the salmon population. Those salmon who are mixed are not going to be able to survive when they go down. And who knows how many eggs the farmed salmon is going to fertilize. They're all going to be destroyed. They're all going to die when they grow up. They're not going to be able to survive in the ocean.
the luckiest animals ever. They will live their entire life on this protected ecological reserve where they have all sorts of space and they have natural denning environment and they have a inclement weather hut that
If they're being fed raw meats, then sure.
they can go and hide out in if they need to. They have 24-hour veterinary care.
Dire wolves aren't the only species on Colossal's de-extinction agenda.
An American company says it has genetically engineered mice so that they have developed some traits like mammoths.
A small but potentially important step in a quest to eventually bring back
I heard about this actually.
the prehistoric woolly mammoth.
They hope to de-extinct the woolly mammoth as early as 2028. The company is also
I mean, I hope they do that. It sounds interesting. I just hope they don't release it into the wild or have them escape or something.
hoping to bring back the dodo and the Tasmanian tiger. If some of this genetic tinkering feels familiar, it's because Hollywood has been here first. And spoiler alert, we all know that didn't work well.
If you've watched the Jurassic Park / Jurassic World movies, well, they portray dinosaurs in a way that, like, they make them look like monsters, you know? And that's definitely, we don't know much about their behavior, obviously. We only have the bones, but that's not how any animal behaves. like animals are not monsters. They're just not monster-like creatures.
So naturally,
But it can certainly end in a bad way, especially dire wolves, because they get into the wild. Like I said, if they mix with the regular wolves, that can be a problem. Actually, it might not be a problem, since dire wolves are, well, they're not. They're natural, right? They did exist at some points, and it would provide wolf population with a genetic diversity, but yeah, probably not the best to play with nature, you know. Probably not the best idea. It's never turned out well. Whenever humans played with nature, not once has it turned out well.
When you're playing with nature, nature usually wins. Nature is much more complicated than the ability of our brains to understand it. Genes do many things. There may be a lot of unintended consequences. Let's say we alter a gene to make extra hair or to make it burn metabolism more, burn fat more. Those genes may do other things in ways that we just don't even understand. So we make animals that have lots of
I'm really glad that this guy knows what he's actually talking about.
Problems. If we start tinkering with genes, we may create a super mouse, a super rat that kills all the other animals around.
But the team at Colossal says their mission to restore extinct species is also about stopping the disappearance of endangered ones today, as experts predict Earth will lose 30% of its genetic diversity by 2050.
Yeah, how about instead of genetic engineering, we stop destroying nature? How about we just do that, man? Like, come on, let's just stop destroying the fucking planet. We have a single planet. Like, when we look into the space with these sophisticated telescopes, there is no other habitable planet nowhere near us. There is no planet near us, anyways. The closest solar system to our solar system is 4 light years away. 4 light years means light would take 4 years to go to that place. And engineering-wise, we have no way of having any vessel reach that location in a human lifespan. There has been like designs of certain devices that could actually travel to the nearest solar system in like 20 years, but that's just going to be like a light microchip that's going to be propelled with lasers from Earth. It's really not a very foolproof design, I would say. So like we have no other choice. This is the only planet we got, right? Best not destroy it.
50. Colossal has used techniques learned from the Dire Wolf project to clone 4 red wolves, a small but important step in fortifying that endangered species. The 4 new wolves could help inject fresh DNA into the red wolf gene pool, which currently suffers from a so-called genetic bottleneck, the result of too few individuals carrying too little genetic variety to...
Yeah, I heard this about mammoths too. They apparently found fossils of these mammoths in some island. And these mammoths actually lived on for quite a while after the mammoths on mainland went extinct. But they eventually died because the genetic pool just wasn't wide enough, I guess. They started having genetic diseases. Yeah, inbreeding can actually do that to you. Inbreeding is not natural, guys. Many animals have certain protections against inbreeding, such as not being attracted to the pheromones produced by people related to you, or not being attracted to people who look like you, or not being attracted to, or being more attracted to new people, you know. These are all protections against inbreeding.
to keep the species healthy.
Yes, it would be really amazing to see a mammoth. It would be great for the habitats of Tasmania to have a keystone predator reintroduced into that ecosystem. But the tools that we're developing on the path to these species have immediate application to species that are not yet extinct. A future that is both biodiverse and filled with people. We should be giving ourselves the opportunity to see what our big brains can do to reverse some of the bad.
Our big brains have been destroying this nature that you're trying to fix for a century now. We've been destroying it. How about we stop destroying it before we apply this artificial solution, huh? How about we stop destroying it and see what happens then?
Bad things that we've done.
No, this is ridiculous. This is cope.
World already.
There's a huge need.
Like, it's interesting. It's extremely interesting to me that these species can actually be revived, but it should be some attraction. Like, it should be like a tourist attraction or a science project, like the Jurassic Park. We shouldn't be thinking of releasing these abominations into the wilds. I can't ever see that ending well. Even to increase the genetic pool. I don't know, man.
Help prevent animals from becoming endangered and going extinct. We need to spend more money on conservation. Particularly now, there's a lot of threats that lands that we have as national parks and as preserves are going to be used for drilling oil, for instance. So there's a lot of habitats where species now live that are going to be under threat. So,
I mean, drilling oil, stuff like fracking completely destroys nature.
And there's not enough money to help with conservation.
They inject, what they do when they frack is, fracking is basically needed to extract the oil when the oil is not in like a single chamber. Like in Saudi Arabia, the oil is usually easy to extract. It's in these underground chambers, basically. You put the drill in, you suck it out, very simple. But in like United States, I'm pretty sure the oil, the natural gas is not like that. There still is a lot of natural gas in the US, but natural gas and oil in the US, but it's like all scattered in between rocks. Like, it's not in a chamber that you can just suck out. So what they do is they put the drill in, they inject some chemical fluid, basically poison. They poison the ground and push the petroleum out, and they suck it up. So yeah, you can see how that wouldn't be such a good thing for the environment. You're like destroying the structure too, man. Like, we're not supposed to be doing that. That's very clear.
Efforts.
If they're genetically healthy, I mean, just, we shouldn't be playing with nature like that. It never has ended well. Like, I'm not saying it as a moral code or something. It's literally historically never ended well to play with nature. We should not be doing it. It always comes back and bites us in the ass.